And without further ado, I want to call upon our first speaker. And our first speaker has an amazing resume. I've actually heard about him before I met him. That's how you know someone already has a legacy and is a living legend. I want to talk about Ader, I think that's the cultural way to start, and Dr. Suleiman Walhad. He is the founder and president of the Horn of Africa States and the conceptualiser and founder of Amoud University. And I just want to tell you guys, my little brother went to Bahrain when he was like 14, and all he could talk about was Amoud University in Bahrain and how it's shaping the environment of education. And I didn't know he was the founder and one of the conceptualizers of that, so I'm honored to be in your presence, Ader. Dr. Walhad brings extensive experience and expertise in his works of education, development, and business. He has served as head of commercial banking at BPN and head of Islamic banking at TAIC, OBU, both of Bahrain, and as the CEO of Dahabshiil Bank International. We always send money on Dahabshiil. I didn't even know that other. Dr. Walhad is an author of several books and writer of many articles published in major international magazines. Without further ado, please help me welcome Dr. Suleiman Walhad.
Assalamu alaikum. واسمغلنا سوما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نحمده ونشكره ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. We must begin with Allah's blessed name. We praise Him and we glorify Him as He ought to be praised and glorified. And we pray for all His blessed messengers, including the last one of them, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. I greet you on this first day of December 2024, here in the Khayrhaye Gala. Assalamu alaikum one more time, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear guests, Martida Sharaftale, it is an absolute pleasure to have been invited to talk to this gathering, this pleasant Khayrhaye Gala, showcasing partially the beautiful Somali culture and traditions. It is a wide and varied subject which cannot be covered in one presentation, such as this gala. However, I shall try to the best of my ability to say a few words on the subject, perhaps to raise curiosity, perhaps to excite some researchers to look into the matter, perhaps to remind us of some of the pathways of life systems in the Somali landscape. I must welcome you all to this Khayrhaye Museum and Gala, the works and great achievement of our sister Kaltoum Musa and her team. They have done a good job. I would say I have never spoken in a museum before today. When I was asked to talk, I was a little bit taken aback as to what I was going to say in a museum or a cultural issue. I'm a businessman, I'm a banker. It's not my job to talk about museums. But I said, since Sister Kaltoum has come and asked you, you have to say a few words. And here I am. I want to warn you though, sometimes I get carried away when I'm talking. Then I hear a familiar phrase. We are running out of time. So if I run out of time, please bear with me. I will try to shorten it as much as possible. I must therefore make a promise that I will make this as short as possible, probably even shorter than a teenager's attention span. I will start, perhaps with the definition of what a museum is, since I didn't know anything about museums before. It is a non-profit, permanent institution in the service of society that researches, collects, conserves, interprets, and exhibits tangible and intangible heritage. That is according to the International Council of Museums. It is open to the public and is inclusive and accessible to all. Museums operate and communicate through ethical and professional processes to educate, entertain, preserve, and transmit knowledge. I believe Khayrhaye is doing just that. Perhaps, Matsida Sharaf Tale, the Khayrhaye Museum is not like the museums of nature or the Museum of Science that we have here in Ottawa. It's a museum that presents the cultural heritage of Somalis and the Somali community here in Ottawa. The cultural and traditional life of Somalis is varied and wide. It involves their way of life and activities involving many types such as sculpting, poetry, arts, folk dancing, and singing, and others. Many involve the traditional costumes of different occasions. It's a culture which is able to absorb from other cultures and is able also to export to other cultures. The Khayrhaye Museum, as noted earlier, is only a partial microcosm of the vast way of the life of the Somali in its vast territory in the Horn of Africa. Perhaps in the future, it will branch out to other fields. It has indeed started to research, collect, and bring to our attention and enjoyment to see a glimpse of the past Somali way of life, more so in terms of shelter and dances and songs, and in particular with respect to festivities, marriage, mourning, religious, and others. And in the process, other related matters, such as the traditional clothing, the kitchen, the storage, the beds, and how indeed a mobile Somali home was structured, easily dismantleable, and rebuilt with ease on a short time frame, and serving as the shelter it was. Look around, and maybe you will see some of the traditional Somali dresses. I don't see some, but I do few of the stuff like Habibas. To many, this was a long-lost heritage. To Khaltoon and her team, it was a task that needed to be done to collect, preserve the old ways, at least some of them. And they did what they could. They did collect and recreate a Somali home or akal for us to see. Some of us have not seen such a home for a long time, and for others, and especially the young and non-Somalis, it is something new, or what were never thought of. Many were perhaps surprised when the home was reconstructed in Ottawa after traveling thousands of kilometers from Somalia, here to Ottawa in the traditional nomadic way. It's a nomad, the house even. In brief, we could say they were able, the Somalis I mean, like all other people, to manage the environment in which they live in, bend it to their own purposes and ends, and thrive in it. Dear guests, Martida Sharaf Tale, the Somali culture has at its core the traditional Somali nomadic life, farming, fishing, and artisanal communities with a long coast of nearly 4,000 kilometers. The Somali people were always exposed to other peoples as well and had interactions with Arabs, Turks, Persians, Indians, and other peoples in the Indian Ocean, and the Pacific Ocean, like the Malays and the Chinese. They sent the first African ambassador to China, somewhere in the beginning of the Middle Ages. On the African side, Somalis were exposed to their closest neighbors, the Oromos, the Amhara, the Tigrayans, the Eritreans, on the west, and on the south, to the Oromos, the Samburu, the Kikuyu, and others. It has benefited much from the amalgamation of all these to throw up a unique and beautiful Somali culture, which strikes one on first exposure and make them fall in love with it. There is the Somali cuisine, the Somali dress style, the rich Somali language, whose age goes back into the myths of time, unlike what some try to say or make us believe that it's a new language that has been concocted lately out of Arabic. It has nothing to do with that. It's much older than Arabic. Professor Nuh could have talked about that or could say a word on this matter. It is his life and learning, but he's not here, so we will let him talk about it when he hears about what I said. The connection with ancient Egypt, ancient Persia, ancient Arabia, and ancient India are all apparent in the Somali culture. We have many words in common with the ancient Egyptian language, like words like manta, ar, huno, nidar, webi, hur, had, ko, nef, naf, gundate, gunti, ho, usha, shub, etc., etc. In fact, some say the ancient Egyptian language was the present Somali language. It's still alive. It's not dead. It is similarly, we share with ancient Persia words like Nowruz, or the Dahabshiil, or the Dabtur, as we know it in different parts of Somalia. And we share with the Indians words like Baraf, Magalo, Dar, Adi, etc., etc. And of course, we share many words with the Arabic language. It is the faith of the Somali, and we study it from childhood, so we have been exposed to the Arabic culture from when we were growing up. A simple demonstration of the beauty of the Somali language can be demonstrated by a story which occurred in the 50s in Hargeisa, where Omar Australia, a famous Hargeisa man, joked with some of the young men of those days. He kind of accused them that they were not able to speak proper Somali. And then this following conversation passed between them. Waxay ku yidhaahdeen ma annaka aqoon af Soomaaliga. Kaalay oo come and see us in our gatherings when we are discussing. So they called him to join them in a meeting in Hargeisa. And then they asked a certain Hassan Adam Gudal. He became, I think, a senior officer in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Somalia in the 60s and 70s. He said, open the conversation, the discussion. Marka wuxuu yidhi, meeting-kan lagu discuss garaynayo affairska sportska, resolutions ka soo baxa, waa in loo baas gareeyaa secretariat clubka. It's all English words, but converted into Somali. The old man didn't understand a word what they were saying. And the old man said, are you talking Somali or some other foreign language? And they told him, we are talking Somali. It is the words we have added onto the Somali language. It can adapt. They converted the English language into Somali, and he was lost. They told him they don't know the language as much as he knew, and they have added more words to it than you could ever imagine. And then they told him that they can speak the ordinary Somali language he knows much better than he does. And they told another guy to recount a statement, a witness statement he made on a case at the police station in Hargeisa. marka wuxuu yidhi annagu oo maashaa allah walba indhuhu kiriirtaana yihiin ayaa ay gabadhaasi noo soo gashay dabeetna inankaasay ku sandhiftay isna wuu ku asqacay. That was the witness statement. And the old man said, what are you talking about? I said, but that is Somali, you understand what it is. But it was all in a twisted format, but very clever way of doing it. Oday Umar, he left them alone. He never said to them anymore that they didn't speak Somali well. Another interesting aspect of the malleability of the Somali language could be demonstrated by the following. waxay yidhahdaan qaarkood marka qaarkood war heedhe hebel huwa fi lcilmi ka mithli ocean wayafham kula shay biduni translation. It's a mixture of Arabic, Somali, and English. dhaqanka Soomaalida shaxda ayaa lagu baani jiray. haddii aan soo qaadano, sorry, I will convert to Somali. Those who don't speak Somali, maybe you're ask your friends who are close to you to translate it. dhaqanka Soomaalida shaxda ayaa lagu baani jiray. haddii aan soo qaadano masalan ugaas nuurkii labaad ee ka tirsanaa salaadiinta awdal ee hore waxa uu la shax dhigan jiray in la yidhaahdo cilmi dheere oo ay wax isku ahaayeen markay shaxda ciyaarayaan. marka waxa dhex maray iyagoo shaxdii ciyaaraya kaftanka soo socda. wuxuu yidhi arayow maroodigu hadduu kaynta alalaayo uuda qaylada rag loo urursho mooyaane eeba uu ninkii ula tagaa waa ardaalnimo libaax aaladiisii wato uurka ka higooday afka gacanta loogama gashee waa ardaalnimo kanaan degay. markaa shaxdii buu god dhigay. cilmi dheere ayaa isna u jawaab celiyo wuxuu yidhi arayow maroodigu hadduu kaynta alalaayo uuda qaylada rag loo urursho mooyaanta mooyaane buu ku yidhi Soomaali rag loo urursho mooyaanta adigu ilaah kula yahay waa ay weyn waaba ay koraye ayuu ku yidhi. adigu ilaah kula yahay waaba ay koraye igu eeg anuunbaa ka guri ama ka bixin ilagya dhaadheere. 2 minutes. See, I told you, they will say your time is getting short. Okay. Now, the Somali culture has at its core a number of concepts. Basically, that's what you have to understand, which can be summarized as follows. It has the family and kinship as its core, familial piety, honor, generosity. We look after each other wherever we are. The Turks ask themselves, so many Somalis are coming to the country and they have never seen a Somali begging. And they say, where do you get the money from? They have no idea that Somalis are helping each other. Adaptability and entrepreneurship. What I want to say is that some of the settled communities of the Somalis of the past are old. They are thousands of years old. Cities, villages like Hafoun or Zayla or Berbera or Mogadishu or Merka or Barawe are more than 1,000, 1,500 years old. Somalis existed for a long time. Others knew about the Somalis. Some of them knew as the land of the unicorn, like the Chinese, or the land of the tall men, like the Persians, or the land of cinnamon, like the Greeks, or the land of aroma or aromatics, like the Persians, like the Romans. But the Egyptians, who are ancestrally related to Somalis, they used to call the land of Somalia as the land of their forefathers, or the land of the gods. The Somali culture and traditions are what shapes and defines the Somali identity. The Khayrhaye Somali Cultural Museum is presenting only the tip of a vast living system. So what I want you to do is to enjoy it when you are here, learn about it, and you are most welcome to this gala. Thank you very much.